Yeah, as far as Bergman, mainly what's interesting about him is that, yes, especially like not all of his, some of his movies are really tough to engage with and borderline would be considered boring. They are dialogue heavy, so there's always something holding you there, even though it's a foreign language. It's almost, it feels to me like he's the Sergio Leone of art house movies. Like he's of these like foreign film like artsy movies. Like he really and I believe more so than say Tarkovsky and some of these other loved filmmakers by others, not by me. I really feel like he just gives you a lot. Like every movie is a meal. Like it really, there's just so much in there. And as long as you're in the mood and you're willing to like, take a deep breath and dig into it, and you've saved yourself, like you didn't like spoil your appetite, uh, then he'll give you a really good meal. Like there's gonna be visuals, there's gonna be good dialogue, there's gonna be good acting, it's all going to be there. It's just a matter of being in the right place. And I understand some people, it's just not for them. These movies, it's
Yeah.
just they're not going to connect with them.
I
But
mean, still, it's better than Jasper No, who, you take a deep breath and take it up the ass and decide whether you like it, whether
Wow.
after he's done. But uh, so I you can edit that out, right? I don't I mean, by all means, if everybody knows what I think about Jasper No, go for it. I mean, I do not like that man.
no, but that's a good point though, because I feel like whether it's him or Tarkovsky for that matter, and there's a few other ones I can name. There's a few filmmakers that are pretty renowned and well beloved, but they're gonna have a miss here and there, especially if they make. And Bergman was very prolific. And yes, not all his movies connect, and they're not all perfect.
Yeah,
But there's something about him. He's at a different level. Like he's just such a pro. It's almost like the equivalent of a Spielberg or a Nolan. Like he just was born to make movies, only he makes them, he's not a technician. Like yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. Like Fincher, Spielberg, and Nolan are the type of directors that are just technical geniuses.
yeah,
They boy can they shoot a scene and they'll make it interesting as hell, and nobody can shoot a movie like them, especially in the modern age. Like they're just on a different level, and Denis Villeneuve also, I think, is getting up there. Like he's also has proven that he's in that, I guess, Mount Rushmore of modern directors. But Bergman is doing something completely different. He's at their level, but for these movies, for like art house movies, for movies that are not mainstream, but he's doing them so well that I don't think he's been matched. And I think that's why he's so beloved by other directors. It's because he's on a different level. Like a lot of people like Fellini, and there's a few other ones from that period, and especially some of the American filmmakers. And but Bergman is like in a class of his own. I really feel like, and it's tough to
yeah.
like to place it, but it's the whole meal thing. Like he just gives you so much, and I think Wild Strawberries is a good example of that. But
I'm not trying to challenge you too much, but I mean I mean, obviously, I'm not only a huge Tarkovsky fan, but I'm generally a fan of Russian cinema. And you know, the funny thing is, like with Tarkovsky, I always have this lingering thing in the back of my head of what could Tarkovsky have been if he hadn't spent the majority of his life trying to make art in the Soviet Union, where he literally had to get everything approved by a despotic government. Like I think that Tarkovsky easily could have been a Bergman if he just didn't have to deal with the fucking Soviet Union. his entire life
Guess
until
we'll never know.
he finally defected. But I mean, I don't know, but I probably didn't even need to throw that out there, but I just really love Tarkovsky, so I just wanted to kind of try to say, like, well, maybe if this guy maybe if this guy lived in a nation with some concept of freedom for the majority of his life, he could have cranked out as many gems as Bergman did.
Well, I mean, one
Anyway,
thing I'll say is that, you know, how in film school they always told us, show it, don't tell, and every time
Yeah.
you write too much dialogue, they'll give you a hard time about it. And I'll oftentimes say, like, look at Bergman. Like, he's got a lot of dialogue in his movies. Like, all these people say, like, oh, he's so visual, so visual. There's a ton of dialogue. He's essentially a playwright. Like, I think he came up
yeah,
from playwriting and he kind of brought it to the movies. And people don't realize, yes, you want to be visual as much as you can and wherever you can. And boy, is this guy visual, but he's got a lot of words in his movies.
Well,
And, and,
dude,
I, and I, and
Wild
I,
Strawberries could be a play. You could do it on a stage and it'd be very successful.
a lot of
absolutely.
his movies could be plays. Yeah. But that's the point I'm trying to make, is that I really think him, and also Kubrick is a good example of this, but especially Bergman, he's very heavy on the dialogue, but the visuals are very important and very strong. And I think Kubrick is, and this is why Kubrick is my favorite, he's also got a lot of good dialogue and good dialogue, but he's very heavy on the visuals, a bit more than Bergman. And Tarkovsky is just too much on the visuals. It's almost silent movies, and it's just a bit too much. I just feel like I understand to communicate through images is very important in movies, but not only. I mean, even in silent movies, there are like cards. You have to move the plot along. I mean, come on, like seriously. I just feel like he takes it a bit too far. That's all. And maybe that's why I've never connected with him. And I've liked some of his movies. But yes, I call bullshit on the whole thing. It's like, oh, too much dialogue. Shut up. Come on. If it's done well, Tarantino has a shitload of dialogue, and everybody likes his movies, especially the better ones. So don't tell me it's not about less dialogue, more visuals. It's about doing it right. If it calls for more words, have more words, just good words. And if it's not, it's not. But Tarkovsky was like, no, no, I'm just gonna have an 8 minute shot of two people sitting at a bar and nothing will happen, and that's cinema. It's like,
Yeah.
I just like, come on, give me something. Like I watched that Stalker movie, and I think it's pretty short, but it feels like 4.5 hours. It just really does. Um, so I so,
uh,
so yeah, but that's not to say I respect him, and he's definitely made some amazing images and some great movies.
uh,
But I guess it's just not for me. I just can't explain it. I just, I'm not. I guess I'm not the target audience.
yeah, you should try watching a couple of movies by Alexander Sokurov.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, you know
I
what? I take it
I
back. I
I
guess it is 2 hours and 42 minutes. So I guess Stalker.
I mean,
So I guess it's
but
as long as it's felt.
I mean, even I find Alexander Sokurov movies to be boring. But yeah, I mean, visually interesting, but still boring.
Yeah, no,
I,
I just think Bergman just found struck that balance, just doing very odd, quirky, small movies that don't connect with a big audience, but he's struck that balance between visuals and dialogue that just works magic on at least myself and some other people. And I guess all these directors, whether it's the Kurosawa, Fellini, everybody has their favorites because depending on your perspective, your sensibilities. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense Tarkovsky because if you're into cinematography and stuff, you're gonna love that. I think Deakins also names Tarkovsky again and again as like his
Mhm.
favorite filmmaker, and it's like, I mean, that makes sense if you're coming from a visual perspective solely, like almost exclusively, then you're gonna connect with those movies.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But
It's funny that you said earlier that you feel like he's the Sergio Leone of what did you say of did you say
I
you
guess
didn't say
art house or
you said
whatever.
art house, yeah, of
Yeah, I
art
mean,
house.
like, movies that are
And
serious movies. Yeah.
yeah, well, no, but just when you said art house, and to me, I was like thinking about movies that play in art house, and I was like, I think Sergio Leone is the Sergio Leone of art house movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why he was shooting on Technoscope rather than anamorphic, right? But
Yeah,
Yeah,
but Sergio Leone was his whole mission was to make movies that are. I think he said it at one time, like he wanted to make movies that the old people that get bored with 95% of movies that go to the theater will be like slammed in their faces with such great like a great experience and a great story. That's why he even called his movies Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in the
mm,
West, because he was basically telling fairy tales for adults. Like that's
sure,
what he was doing. His whole thing was like, I'm gonna be as engaging as you can fucking be in this medium. Like nobody's gonna be more engaging. He was like the Michael Jordan of being engaging
yeah,
back then, like in the the '60s, whenever he was started making movies. But Bergman was like, fuck that. I'm gonna make my own movies, and I don't care if they're engaging or not. This is what interests me, and hopefully it'll interest you. And those are the type of movies that I feel like are. We've discussed this in the whole slow movie episode, but it's the movies where, no, I'm not. I'm not coming to you. You have to come to me.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Well,
just a different type
I
of
don't think
movie.
anybody would disagree that Leone's films are like more accessible, of course.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like, yeah, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I guess it's like Tarantino's favorite movie or one of his favorite movies. It's uh, it's a
mhm.
crazy movie. Like it's just like it's you couldn't even think of that. I remember watching this movie as an adult, and I loved it as a kid too, which is crazy. It's like a super long movie, but I watched it as an adult. It's like, what is this movie about? Like it's so crazy. It's basically about a bunch of people trying to find gold, and it's a good, bad, and ugly, and it just goes on forever. But it's so fun. It's so engaging. It's just
It's so good and it's so long.
yeah. No, it's you strap in. It's a roller coaster ride. It's like something else. His movies. He's definitely one of my favorite directors, but for
Yeah.
completely different reasons of why I like Bergman. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I, I I still find it really hard to watch Once Upon a Time in America just because Jennifer Connelly grows up to be a woman who looks nothing like Jennifer Connelly as an adult. And I I I had only ever known Jennifer Connelly as an adult, and I just can't make my brain split that where it's just like, okay, well, oh, this is Jennifer Connelly as like a 10-year-old, and then she grows up and it's like, oh, there's this woman and she doesn't look like Jennifer Connelly, but it's still a great movie. I mean, I just haven't found the 5-hour time period of my life that I was willing to spend rewatching it recently. But
Oh
it's
no, it's a tough movie. It's definitely his toughest movie to watch.
yeah,
It's like super long, and it's not nearly as engaging as his earlier stuff. I guess it was like his
yeah,
attempt at making a super serious gangster movie, and I think he took it a bit too serious.
yeah. No, I
um,
mean, again, don't get me wrong. I think it's a brilliant film. I think it's a really good movie. It's just something that you have to. I mean, it's like reading a Dostoevsky novel or something like that. You just that's not something that you do in your leisure time.
yeah, exactly. But that's a good point. That's a good point
Right.
to make about even he can
Yeah.
make a movie that's on the slow side and less
Yeah.
engaging.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it's just a different type of movie, but then you have 3 hours of like the good, the bad, and the ugly, however long it is, and it's super engaging the entire time, and it's very rewatchable.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
I still prefer Once Upon a Time in the West, but you know.
Yes, no, I agree. If I were to rank his movies, I think Once Upon a Time in the West would have the top
Yeah,
spot. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly might be second.
yeah,
I'd probably
and
flip flop those two, but they're both very, very good.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean they're interchangeable. I feel like I feel like Once Upon a Time in the West is like a solid story, just like a really good movie. But The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a non-movie almost. Like it's weird. It's almost like Tarantino doing Kill Bill or something.
it's like a
Only
symphony. It's like a symphony on screen
yeah,
in a
exactly.
way. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got so
It's
little going on there, but you can't take your eyes off of it. It's so weird.
yeah.
It's like an excuse to. We discussed this with the Inception thing, like how it's so focused about because I'm editing it now. It's so focused about me in a movie that it's
Mhm.
just like so over the top. It was designed to be a movie from the inception of it. So I feel like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was like essentially designed that way too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's there's certain movies like that are just odd. Like just they don't make a whole lot of sense. They really shouldn't work on any level, but you just can't take your eyes off of them.